Good afternoon, Bobcats. I hope you're all having a nice, relaxing weekend. I'm going to spend the majority of this video walking through our hybrid model, but before I do, I just want to remind everyone that tomorrow, August 31st, is curriculum night. So at 6 o'clock, you can log in. I'm going to show you where to log in a second. I'm going to put the link in this email. And you'll be able to click on a teacher's name and see the curriculum night video, since it's all virtual this year, that each teacher has created. Some teachers have several videos, some teachers have one, so you'll be able to scroll. I'll show you all that in a minute. But I'll spend the majority of this video walking through our hybrid model since we are switching to that on September 8th. Curriculum night is virtual this year. Students and families can access each teacher's video by clicking on the link in this email. If you click on the link, it'll take you to this one-page sheet that I will be updating throughout the year with necessary information. But for curriculum night, you can find the teacher's name. Let's see, I'm close to Mr. Smith. Let's pick on Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith teaches government and AP government. If you scroll down, here's this video. All you have to do is click this for it to play. And that's it. Some teachers have more than one video, so make sure that you scroll to the bottom and find the class that you're looking for. All right, that brings us to our hybrid learning model. So to repeat, we are going to hybrid learning on Tuesday, September 8th. That is the day after Labor Day. So not this week, but the following week. I'm going to take my time and go through this document point by point. It spells out the new policies, the new requirements, and some of it's very self-explanatory. So for some of you, for many of you, it's going to be a bit boring. However, parts of it are complex, and this is a very different model than remote learning. It's also a very different model than the in-person school that we are used to. So clarity and understanding is very important right now. All right, looking at point number 1, doors for entry and exit. The AM students, the morning students, will begin their day at 8 a.m. The doors will open at 7:30, and we're going to be unable to open the doors before that like we normally would due to cleaning schedules and staffing. Same thing in the afternoon for the PM students. PM schedule starts at noon, and so we're unable to open the doors before 11:45. So students, we need you to arrive between 11:45 and 12 o'clock and not before. We can't have a lot of students congregating outside of the school. We'll go through more of that here in a second. Everyone's going to enter through the main entrance off of 3rd Avenue. And when you get in, we're going to make sure you have a mask. We're going to take your temperature, and then you're going to go right to your class, whatever class you have at that time. When students exit the building, whenever they're exiting, they are going to exit the door closest to them. So whenever you're leaving the building, you're going to exit the door that's closest to you. Everyone is not going to go to the front because that's just going to create too many students in one spot. Looking at number 2, hallways and stairwells will be marked. Students are going to travel in a single file on the right side of the hallway or stairwell. We're going to have that marked either with blue tape, or on the first level of the high school, there are blue blocks that go down the middle of each hallway. So you're just going to stay to the right of those blue blocks. Point number 3 deals with restroom capacity. And so we're only going to have one kid at a time, regardless of gender, that can leave a classroom at any given time. And we're also going to be blocking off sort of the middle stalls to make distancing a little bit easier in the restrooms. Number 4, facial coverings. I think this is one of those ones that's pretty self-explanatory that you probably saw coming. Must be worn by everyone, staff, students, everyone at all times in our building. Maintaining good social distance. 6 feet is what we strive for. Now, it's not always going to be possible to be 6 feet from another person. In some of our classrooms, for example, that's not going to be possible. So we have things like plexiglass barriers and desks that are arranged in a certain way. But we're going to maintain good social distancing. Number 6, hand washing. Hopefully we've all gotten to a good habit of doing that all the time. Number 7, large gatherings are still not permitted. That includes field trips, school assemblies, like pep rallies, dances, some of the fun things that we do, which I know is a bummer. Staff, we miss those things too, but we definitely feel for our students because those are some fun things. And so we're hoping to supplement them with some different things that we can do, following all of our guidelines that we have to adhere to. But for now, large gatherings are still not permitted. Number 8, we have students and staff completing a self-assessment each morning to determine wellness. Now, what is wellness? Well, there's going to be a checklist. And our technology department is looking for a very easy way for students to be able to do this on their phones real quick before they leave in the morning. But students are going to have to complete this before coming to school. Students who are not completing that self-assessment, and it looks for, cough and headache and a lot of the symptoms, and I know these can be symptoms of other things like allergies, but if you have any of those symptoms, you are not to come to school. So everyone is going to have to take that self-assessment before coming in. More on that, more specifics when we have that tool ready for students to be able to take that measurement at home. Number 9 talks about classroom furniture, and there are some places like our science classrooms where we have those giant black tables. They can't be arranged any differently. So we're going to have a lot of plexiglass in those rooms. But whenever we can, furniture has been rearranged so that everyone is social distancing and facing the same way, all the recommendations that the health department has given us. The library media center is closed to student drop-in. Students cannot just walk into the library like they're used to doing. Classes can go in there. Books will be checked out through an online system, but we can't have students dropping in this year, unfortunately. Supplies that are shared, such as lab equipment in science rooms, library books, they have to be sanitized between each use. And so teachers are going to be very carefully going to be monitoring that, cleaning things. Library books, for example, when they are returned, we have to put them in a Ziploc bag for 2 days. So we can't just be handing books from one kid to another. And that goes into number 12, student lockers. So we can't have students congregating, blocking up the halls, using lockers. So students will not be able to use lockers this year, but they will be permitted to carry backpacks. Number 13, students can bring their own water bottles. In fact, that's encouraged. The water fountains are not turned on, but the bottle fillers are. So students can refill their bottles, but they cannot drink from the water fountain. And of course, eating in the classroom is not going to be permitted. Speaking of eating, lunches. So all students are going to eat lunch at home or somewhere outside of our building. All buildings need to be free of students between 11 a.m. and 11:45 for the mass amount of people that are going to be coming through and deep cleaning from between a.m. and p.m. a.m. students, before you leave at 11, your last class is over at 11 for the a.m. students. If you want a school lunch, there will be grab and go lunches. They'll be in the cafeteria. We'll have a way to keep you distanced while you wait in line. You're still going to have to punch your number in, so you still have to go through that line. But we'll have a way to keep you distanced and make it very quick so you can grab that lunch and head home. PM students, it's a little more difficult for you to get your lunch. However, it's going to be the same system. So the day before, you're going to get your lunch. These are lunches that can all be stored in the refrigerator. So if you want a school lunch on a Tuesday, you're going to have to grab it at 3 o'clock before you leave on a Monday and take it home with you for Tuesday. That's a little inconvenient. I definitely understand that, but it is really the only way that we can do it and maintain all of the other requirements that we have to adhere to. Number 15 is schedule, and that's really the last thing that's in here. However, it's definitely the most complex thing. So in our hybrid model, students are going to attend school. They're going to attend in person for half of the day. The other half of the day is still going to be learning. It's going to be virtual learning. So if you're a student with a last name A through K, you will come in the morning from 8 to 11. If you're a student last name L through Z, you're going to come from 12 to 3. The periods are split with half in the morning and half in the afternoon, and they will alternate each day. And don't worry if you don't understand that right now. I'm going to explain that further as we move through these bullet points. Students who attend outside programs such as Career Center, Mosaic, some students have classes at OSU. We may need to switch you from AM to PM and vice versa. Due to the delicate balance of numbers, remember, we have to keep the magic number is 12 or 13, maybe even 14, depending on the size of the classroom. But we really can't have classes much bigger than that for the most part. We are going to utilize our larger spaces. the gym, the auditorium, the cafeteria, for classes. But for that reason, we cannot take any student switch requests because we've already had a lot of students, and I feel for you. I wish we could honor these request students, but some want to switch from PM to AM and AM to PM. It throws the whole balance off. And if we say yes to one student, we really have to say yes to all students. The only exception for that is we understand that some high school students are going to have to watch their younger siblings. So if you're a student with a different last name than maybe a younger sibling, and you need to switch AM or PM because of that, because you have to watch your younger sibling, that is the one exception to the switch requests that we can take. Students who are participating from home will have multiple ways of learning depending on their course. So think of a given day as a split block. I think we're all used to what block schedules look like now. So half of your block is in person and half of your block is virtual from home. And depending on the class, the teacher, that's going to look different. That might look different every day. Don't worry, when you get into school, into your classes, into your teachers are going to explain this and how it looks. They're going to be explicitly clear with how this looks for each of your classes day to day. So students won't be confused on what is expected of them. That is the one thing that teachers are going to focus and spend a lot of time on, is clarity, because this is confusing. And at the high school level, this is going to look different each day. For teachers, it's going to be important to record their lessons because we know a lot of high school students are tasked, like I said, with watching their younger siblings. And so some teachers are going to, not all teachers and not every day, if it makes sense for their content, for their curriculum, for what they're doing that day, some of them are going to live stream their classes. So the half that you're at home, you may be logging in to watch what they're doing, maybe a portion of the time. So it's important to sort of record those so that students can come back and watch those. I talked about this. This is going to look different. Teachers will go through just exactly what their class period is going to look like on a given day. So I know it's a little bit fuzzy right now, but once we get going with this, once teachers talk with students, I think it'll become a lot more clear. As far as the actual schedule goes, we're going to alternate days 1 and day 2. Day 1 is going to be our odd block schedule. Day 2 is going to be our even blocks. So each morning in the announcements, I know there's going to be a lot of mornings where you wake up and you say, oh my goodness, is it day 1 or day 2? Through email, through Schoology, we're going to remind students the first thing you'll see when you wake up is whether it's a day 1 or a day 2. Day 2 will always follow day 1. In other words, we're never going to have 2 day 1s in a row. You're never going to have an odd 1, 3, 5, 7 schedule, and then the next day have the same 1, 3, 5, 7. It's always going to be followed by an even schedule. Study halls and college courses. Due to our safety measures and spacing requirements, we have very large study halls. We've always had very large study halls. And we've always managed to find a space or multiple spaces for those study halls. Right now, we're using those larger spaces for some of our bigger classes. And so unless students are getting additional support from teachers, unless they are asked to stay, now students, to be very clear, whether you stay for your study hall or not is up to us. It's up to teachers. If a teacher wants you to stay for a study hall, regardless of the reason, regardless if you think you're caught up, regardless if you think your grade is in a good spot, you will stay. In general, if you are in good standing and you have your assignments turned in, we have open study halls. In fact, we're going to encourage students to leave for study hall and have those at home. We're not kicking you out. You can stay for study hall, but if you have a study hall first thing in the morning, you can come in late. You can come in after that period. If you have a study hall the last period of the day, you can leave early. If you have a study hall in the middle of the day, you can leave and come back just like you would maybe for lunch. You don't have to, but we have to open that up to all students 9 through 12 because of our spacing issues. Same thing with college courses. So if you're taking Psychology and sociology through Columbus State, those are usually held in person at our high school. But this year, they are online through Columbus State. And so we don't have a physical space for you. So you can either be in that study hall or you can leave during that period when you would have had psychology or sociology. Looking at the schedule, this is what it looks like. So if we're looking at this column, day one, so we'll start on day one on Tuesday, September 8th. AM students, this is when you're in person, from 8 to 11 a.m. That's going to be periods 1, 3, 5, and 7. This is in person for AM, 1, 3, 5, and 7. If you're a PM student, what are you doing between 8 and 11? That is going to be up to your individual teachers. So let's say you have English first period. Let's say you have Mr. McCarthy for English first period. Mr. McCarthy might say to you on this day, I want you to log in between 8 and 8:43 PM students. I want you to log in from home because I want you to see what I'm doing with the AM students. Maybe the next day he says, you don't have to log in, you can work on your paper. Maybe you have math third period and Mr. Richard says to you, I need you to log in, PM students, I need you to log in during your third period time. If you have math third period and you're a PM student, log in from home and watch what the AM students are doing. Because what happens in the AM and what happens in the PM isn't necessarily going to repeat. So, for example, maybe math, third period, in the morning might be unit 1, and then in the afternoon, it might be unit 2. So if you're a PM student, you're going to have to do unit 1 at home. And if you're an AM student, you're going to have to do unit 2 at home. Now, it might not always be that way. Again, this is where teacher clarity is going to come into play. They're going to tell you what's expected. So going back to 1, 3, 5, and 7 in the morning, these are your AM students. This is in person. AM students go home at 11. At 12 o'clock, the PM students come in, and they will have periods 1, 3, 5, and 7. In the morning, the AMs, if you're a PM student, I know this gets confusing. If you're a PM student, you are not off in the morning. You are just logging in from home between 8 and 11, just like you're doing now with remote learning. Now, again, it's not going to be live all the time. Depending on your classes, depending on the teachers, I'm not sure how often it will be live. You might have projects or papers or whatever you need to work on at home. AM students, what are you doing between 12 and 3? You are working at home remotely, just like you're doing now. So this is a full day of school. Half of it's in person, half of it is at home. Day 2 is the same thing. It's just our even blocks, 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8. PM students, virtual in the morning. AM students, virtual in the afternoon. I hope this makes sense. If it doesn't, ask me questions, ask your teachers questions, ask them, if, and it might be different day to day what you're doing from home for a given class. Teachers will let you know what's expected. So don't worry too much about that right now. That is the whole sheet. So I've now gone through the hybrid schedule, the hybrid expectations. There will be reminders. There will be, the first couple of days of hybrid, your teachers are going to go through some things with you and just remind you of some of the more important points that we went through in this document. You can rewatch this video and you can hear my voice all day, all night if you want, and you can go through it and maybe you watching it again will make more sense. I don't know if some of it's not making a whole lot of sense right now. I attached this document as well as just the schedule and that link for the curriculum night videos. I attached all of that to this email. That is it for now. I will have another video later this week that'll maybe repeat some of this, clarify some of this. In the meantime, reach out if you have questions, concerns, reach out. Let's take care of those before we come back. But in the meantime, I hope you all have a great week of remote learning. I miss you all. I can't wait to have students back in the building. I know there's a lot of apprehension with a lot of people because of safety. I can tell you that we have made the school as safe as we possibly can. I'm confident in your safety. You can never make a place 100% safe, um, but I'm happy that we're going to have kids back in our building. That's it. Everyone have a great night. Go Bobcats.